Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mrs. Gallagher, and today we're going to discuss angle relationships. So let's talk about some key vocab terms first. The first vocab term you should know about angles are adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are two angles that share a common vertex and a common side. So basically, adjacent angles are next to each other. So adjacent angles are always next to each other. So let's look at the figure, and if you look, we have angle 1. So here's angle 1. That's your first angle. And then we have angle 2. That is your second angle. Those are adjacent angles. They lie next to each other. Let's look at our next vocabulary term that we need to know. Vertical angles are formed by two intersecting lines and are opposite of each other. Vertical angles are congruent. And that means that congruent angles have the same measure. So congruent is used in geometry, and congruent means equal. Now vertical angles are never next to each other. They're always across. So vertical angles are never next to each other. They're always across. So our first vertical angle are 1 and 3. So angle 1 and angle 3. They have the same measurement. So for example, if angle 1 is 120 degrees, then angle 3 is also 120 degrees. Our second set of vertical angles are angles 2 and 4. So angle 2 and angle 4. And they're also going to be congruent. So for example, if angle 2 is 60 degrees, then angle 4 is also 60 degrees. Our next set of angles we are going to discuss are called supplementary angles. And supplementary angles are two angles whose sum equals 180 degrees. So if we look at our figure, we have a straight line that divides into two angles. And I like to say an easy way to remember that a supplementary angle is equal to 180. We know supplementary begins with an S, and the word straight begins with an S. And a straight line is always equal to 180 degrees. Therefore, when we add angle 1 plus angle 2, it equals 180 degrees. So whenever you have a supplementary angle, it's always equal to 180. Let's look at our next type of angle, which are called complementary angles. And complementary angles are two angles whose sum equals 90 degrees. So if we look at the figure, we have a 90-degree angle. It's a right angle. And an easy way to remember complementary is 90 degrees. A right angle reminds me of a corner. So complementary begins with a C and corner begins with a C. A corner looks like a right angle. Therefore, when we add angle 1 plus angle 2, it will equal 90 degrees. So whenever we have a complementary angle, it's going to be equal to 90 degrees. So let's read our directions. Find the missing angle measure and state the type of angle. Let's look at number 1. First thing I think you always want to do is identify what kind of angle it is. So we have 55 and X, and we notice that they are across from each other. So when angles are across from each other like that and not next to each other, they are vertical angles. And what do we know about vertical angles? Well, vertical angles are equal to each other. Therefore, X equals 55 degrees. And that is your answer. Let's look at number 2. So in number 2, we have a straight line and our angles are next to each other. So straight means supplementary. So they are supplementary angles. And what do we know about supplementary angles? Well, they're equal to 180 degrees. So we are going to set up an equation here. We have 135 as one angle. Here's our one angle. So we have 135, and we are going to add that to our second angle, which is x. And we're going to set that equal to 180 degrees. We'll set up an equation. Our next step is to get rid of 135, so we're going to subtract it from both sides. And the 135s cancels out, so we're left with x equals 180 minus 135, and that's going to give you 45 degrees. And that is your answer. So let's look at number 3. If you notice in number 3, we have a right angle. And if it is a right angle, it is known as complementary angles. Remember, complementary forms a corner. It equals a right angle, which is equal to 90 degrees. So we're going to set up our equation. We're going to say x plus, and our second angle is 63. And we're going to set that equal to 90 degrees. You always want to get x by itself, so you're going to subtract 63 from both sides. Bring your x down. 63 cancels. And then 90 minus 63 is going to give us 27 degrees. And that is your answer. Let's look at number 4. Solve for x, then find each angle measure. So number 4 is a little different. We have to solve for x, that's our first step, and then we have to find each angle measurement. Okay, angle 1 is 2x, and angle 2 is 3x. Let's first identify what type of angle this is. If you look, we have a straight line, therefore it is supplementary. And we know supplementary is a straight line, therefore it equals 180 degrees. So let's set up our equation. We know we have 2x on as our first angle, and we're going to add it to 3x, and that is set equal to 180. We want to combine our like terms. Remember, 2x plus 3x are like terms, and that's going to give us 5x equals 180. And our last step, divide by 5, and x is going to be equal to 36 degrees. So we found x, we found our first step to this problem. But then it says, then find each angle measure. So we have 2x. We know that x is equal to 36 degrees. So we're going to substitute 36 for our x here. So we have 2x, and we know x equals 36. So you're going to plug it in and substitute 36 for x. And then we have 2 times 36, and that's going to give you 72 degrees. We're going to do the same thing for the second angle. We have 3x. 3x is right here. We're going to plug in 36 for 3x, for the x. So we have 3 times 36, because we're substituting 36 for x. 3 times 36 gives us 108 degrees. And that is your answer. So we have 3 answers here. We know that x equals 36. We know that 2x equals 72. And we know 3x is equal to 108 degrees. So let's look at problem number 5. The measure of angle 2 equals 90 degrees. Find the measure of the remaining angles if the measure of angle 5 equals 130 degrees. So the first thing we want to do is plug in what we know. We know the measure of angle 2 is 90 degrees. And we know the measure of angle 5 is 130 degrees. So in this type of problem, we are applying all the different types of angles we just learned about. So first, let's look. We want to find the measure of angle 1. So here is the measure of angle 1. Here's 1 right here. And what do you notice about 5 and 1? They are what types of angles? Well, it is a straight line. So they are supplementary. So what do you need to do here? Well, you are going to subtract 130 from 180. So you're going to say 180 because it's supplementary minus 130, and that's going to give you 50 degrees. Therefore, the measure of angle 1 is equal to 50 degrees. So let's plug that in. All right, so if you look here, you have the measure of angle 1. And if you look at the measure of angle 4, what do you notice? What do you notice about 1 and 4? What kind of angles are they? They're vertical. They're vertical angles. And we know vertical angles are equal. So if angle 1 is 50, then angle 4 is also 50 degrees. Next, we want to find the measure of angle 3. Well, where's angle 3? Angle 3 is right here. And what do you notice? Angle 3 and angle 4 form a complementary, a right angle. A right angle is equal to 90 degrees. So you're going to say 90 degrees minus 50 degrees equals 40 degrees. So you know the measure of angle 3 equals 40 degrees, since angle 3 and angle 4 are complementary. So now I'd like you to try the U trisection. Please find all your missing angle measurements for angles 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we will discuss it in class. Thank you.